Suge Knight was born Marion Hugh Knight Jr. on April 19, 1965, in Compton, California, a city that would become both his home and his battleground. Growing up in a tough neighborhood during the peak of the crack epidemic and gang violence, Suge earned his nickname Sugar Bear thanks to his large frame and unexpected charm. He wasn't raised in poverty like many of his peers. His father was present, and he went on to attend Linwood High School, where he stood out as a gifted athlete. His size and speed earned him a scholarship to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, where he played college football as a defensive end and later tried out briefly for the NFL. After a short stint with the Los Angeles Rams during the 1987 preseason, Suge's football dreams ended, but his ambition didn't. After football, Suge transitioned into working as a concert promoter and bodyguard for high-profile artists, including Bobby Brown. But he wasn't just trying to stand near fame, he was studying the business. By the early 1990s, Suge had founded his own music publishing company. One of his earliest power plays involved Vanilla Ice, who had unknowingly used a sample from one of Suge's signed artists. According to reports, Suge allegedly pressured Vanilla Ice into signing over royalties by threatening him, a story that would later fuel Suge's fearsome reputation. Suge Knight's most pivotal move came when he co-founded Death Row Records in 1991 alongside Dr. Dre, the DOC, and lawyer David Kenner. Dr. Dre was looking to leave Ruthless Records due to financial disputes with Eazy-E and Jerry Heller. Suge took advantage of the situation, allegedly using intimidation to get Dre and the DOC released from their Ruthless contracts. This sparked one of the most infamous feuds in hip-hop history. Suge and Eazy-E were at open war. Suge, with his gang connections and muscle-bound persona, was becoming known as the industry's enforcer, while Eazy stood his ground publicly, refusing to be bullied. Though the two never reconciled, Suge's tactics ultimately allowed him to walk away with one of hip-hop's biggest assets, Dr. Dre. With Dre as the flagship artist, Death Row exploded. Dre's 1992 debut album, The Chronic, redefined West Coast hip-hop. It brought a laid-back, funk-infused style and introduced the world to a young Snoop Doggy Dogg, whose charisma and flow made him an instant star. Suge was building a musical empire, but he was also creating an intimidating culture behind the scenes. Death Row's headquarters were filled with gang members, and stories of violence, threats, and beatdowns became part of the label's mystique. In 1995, Suge Knight made another seismic move. He bailed Tupac Shakur out of prison, paying $1.4 million for his release, while Pac was appealing his sexual assault conviction. The offer came with a deal. Tupac had to sign Death Row and drop 3 albums. Suge flew to Clinton Correctional Facility to personally pick him up, and from that moment, Death Row's momentum skyrocketed. Tupac's All Eyez on Me became a cultural phenomenon, blending raw aggression with lyrical brilliance. With Dre, Snoop, and Pac, Suge had assembled a rap super team, and Death Row became the most feared and respected label in the world. But while Suge had built an empire, it was crumbling from within. Dr. Dre grew tired of the violence and chaos surrounding the label. He left in 1996 to start Aftermath Entertainment, frustrated with Suge's management style and the gang-related atmosphere. The turning point came later that year when Tupac was murdered in Las Vegas following a Mike Tyson fight, just hours after Suge and Pac were seen together on surveillance footage, and moments after they were involved in a brawl inside the MGM Grand. Though Suge was driving the car when Tupac was shot, he claimed he didn't see the shooter. Pac's death was never solved, but suspicion and conspiracy theories swirled around Suge for years. Not long after, Suge's downfall accelerated. In 1997, he was sentenced to 9 years in prison for a parole violation related to the Vegas fight that preceded Tupac's death. Without Suge at the helm, Death Row started to collapse. Artists left the label. Snoop Dogg, once loyal, called Death Row the devil and signed with No Limit Records. Lawsuits piled up, revenue dried out, and by the early 2000s, Death Row was a shadow of its former self. Suge was released in 2001, but struggled to rebuild his empire. he filed for bankruptcy in 2006, and the rights to Death Row's catalog were auctioned off. Over the years, Suge continued to be involved in a series of violent incidents, including altercations with Kanye West's entourage, fights at clubs, and multiple arrests. But the final nail came in 2015. During the filming of the Straight Outta Compton movie, Suge was involved in a fatal hit-and-run incident in Compton. He claimed self-defense, but video evidence showed otherwise. He was arrested, and in 2018, Suge Knight was sentenced to 28 years in prison after pleading no contest to voluntary manslaughter. From college athlete to rap mogul to inmate, Suge Knight's life is one of the most dramatic rises and falls in music history. He was a kingmaker who helped birth legends like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac, but his empire was built on intimidation, fear, and unchecked power. In the end, Suge's downfall wasn't just about crime, it was about hubris, loyalty lost, and the consequences of a life lived with no limits.